Hi, everyone. It's Jeff Greenspan, and this is From Startup to Sale, a podcast by MSPs for MSPs. Today is the 21st of October. This episode will hopefully drop next Wednesday, but we are dealing with a death in the family that's going to make this episode a little bit different than other ones. Specifically, I have no guest today, so we will be talking specifically about what you can do to improve the overall enterprise value of your company and how you can be ready for a sale, even if an emergency strikes. So let's get right into it. There are really 5 different things that you should do to prepare for a sale. Some of them need to be done early, some of them can be done at any time, but if you're going to optimize your exit, regardless of what happens, all of these things need to be done. So, in order, they are: 1, start with the right business structure. We're going to talk about that because you may want to change your business structure based on what I tell you. 2, make it easy for your buyer to understand how your business creates value. I have some very specific suggestions regarding that. Number 3, avoid bad habits like the plague. We've got a set of bad habits that we can go over that will help you understand how to demonstrate that your company creates value in the marketplace. Number 4, remove impediments to sale. Believe it or not, some of the things that you're doing may actually make it more difficult for you to sell your company. We'll talk about those and how to correct them. And last but not least, have your due diligence documentation organized and ready to share. So, for the first segment, let's start with the right business structure. Most people who set up as small businesses, most technology people come in and they set up an LLC, or perhaps they set up an S corporation, or even an LLC taxed as an S corporation. This is a pretty good structure. The primary purpose of this structure is to avoid corporate liability. But there are other possibilities that make sense. And one that I want to talk about today is a C corporation. So there are pros and cons to starting a C corporation. Um, One of the key pros is that there's multiple classes of stock available. Another one is if you're serious about growing your business and creating a business with significant enterprise value that you might want to take to the market at some point and maybe even go public at some point, there's no pass-through taxation with a C corporation. And venture capitalists prefer this structure because they don't want to have to be paying taxes throughout their process. They really only want to have to deal with taxes at the time that there's an exit. But the most important reason why you might want to consider a C corporation for a small technology company is the availability of the qualified small business stock exemption. And what is this? Only C corporations are eligible to issue qualified small business stock. It's defined in Section 1202 of the Internal Revenue Code. And it generally allows stockholders who hold qualified small business stock for more than 5 years to exclude 100% of the gain on such stock upon sale, subject to a cap at the greater of $10 million or 10 times the basis of the stockholder's initial investment. Now, this is a little bit complicated. If you don't have a tax attorney or a good accountant who understands this, you'll need to find one. And there is one con associated with this particular method. And that con is when you go to sell your company, the valuation will be less than it might be if you were doing an asset sale. So, in a qualified small business stock exemption sale, you are not selling the assets of the company, you are selling the stock in the company. So, what's the implication there? The buyer is unable to take a same year deduction associated with any fixed assets that you might have. And they're usually small and technical companies like this. But they're also unable to amortize the goodwill that is associated with an asset sale because the company itself is not being sold. So this can be a significant difference. And the amount of difference is going to vary based upon a number of different factors. The actual cost or the expectation of how much you might lose requires financial modeling, and it is based on the buyer's marginal tax rate and the buyer's discount rate. And again, I'm not going to go heavily into these two concepts, but I will tell you that the last analysis that I did here for a potential buyer of a company, they were looking at the difference between offering an asset sale or an asset purchase or a stock purchase. And the seller would have preferred a stock purchase because they had set themselves up as a C corporation, and their accountant was advising them that they would be better off in a stock purchase sale because of the availability of that small business stock exemption. The difference in purchase price was about 13.5%. And the way to think about this is if your marginal tax rate is higher than 13.5%, it probably does make sense for you to consider being a C corporation. But remember, there are caveats here. You have to own your company for within 5 years. You have to put something of value in order to purchase that stock. So you'll want to make sure that you take care of this with an accountant. So that's the first item. And we'll move to the second item, which is make it easy for your buyer to understand how your business creates value.